The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 7 Rankings Debate. If you want to see all the updated rankings, or just follow along if the graphics come by too quickly for you, or you're just listening to the podcast version, hit the description. You can find all the updated rankings in there. Also, for the $20 DK giveaway this week, get in a draw by, number 1, smashing the like button, which you should always be doing anyway, but smash the like button, leave your DK handle in the comment section, and tell me which of the running backs that I have ranked from 25 and above, or below, 25, 26, 27, that way, that you think should be ranked higher in the rankings this week. No one from above that. If you do it, you're ineligible. Either way, smash the button, DK handle, below or above 25, 26, 27, that way, and boom, you're in the draw for 20 DK dollars. I will announce the winners on Monday's show, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Don't forget, Sunday morning, live with myself and Garion Thorne.
Hello.
He's there.
I was very confused by what you just said.
Can you figure it out now?
I got it. I got there. And I understand why you had to clarify.
Well, is it above or below?
I know, it's tough. I would say it's below, just because, again, as we say all the time, these rankings are sequential. Really helps, the process of who should I start. So I would say below is the way to say it.
Okay.
But it doesn't really matter. I'm on the same page now. It's fine.
All right, you can find Garion on Twitter at Garion Thorne and on the DK Live app at DK Playbook. Also, you can find our third guest, always on the show. You know him as Jake Ciely, or at AllInKid on Twitter. He writes for The Athletic. And Jake, I saw you dropped a new pod right before you came on. This is all you do now, is just do podcasts.
Just podcast and shows and write. And yeah, this is all I do. It's my job. What a surprise. But Pat, I have a question for you. Would you really start Sony Michel over Mark Ingram?
Oh, of course. I don't think that there is a player I wouldn't start over Mark Ingram, to tell you the truth. Fortunately for me, I never have that situation.
It's true. It is true.
I did want to bring something up before we get into this. You can hit the time codes in the description if you really want to jump into the rankings. But someone sent me an email today. And I get emails all the time, and they're always just the worst emails in the world. Basically about how people either want to kill me, how much they hate me, everything like this. But the guy wrote me like a paragraph. He's like, I know you usually get emails that basically are those things. Just craziness. And he said how much he enjoyed the show, how many laughs we bring, and he doesn't really care that the advice is terrible. He just enjoys the show. It made my day.
That's nice.
It really did. It gave, because football season wears you down, because realistically you only hear negative things 95% of the time. So to hear one nice thing, it was fantastic.
That is really nice.
It really, like I said, it elevated my day. It put me in good spirits.
In a long-form medium, too. Sometimes tweets just don't cut it.
No, yeah, it was a nice email, because people usually email the show, be like, sell me lineups. I was like, you don't want my lineups, man. Sell me. You have the winning picks. Give them to me. It's like, do you think that if I had the winning picks, I'd be hosting an internet podcast? Please, I'd be in Vegas.
Pat,
I'd be in Vegas being a billionaire.
You saw the winning lineup. It was rigged this week. Don't you know?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I tweeted it out because it was like, not me saying it was rigged. I was just like, I can't believe somebody had Brock Osweiler in the lineup with, whatever. You would be, I think 70% of the responses were, this is why it's rigged.
How could that be why it's rigged?
Yeah, that would be a wide-ranging conspiracy. That would really go all the way to the top. Like, we have to convince the Miami Dolphins organization to say that Ryan Tannehill is injured. We have to make sure that Brock Osweiler is in fact their backup quarterback.
And then we need to get the Bears in on it.
Yeah.
To pretend Khalil Mack's ankles hurt and just
suck
on defense.
3 years, so Brock Osweiler is essentially the nickelback of quarterbacks, where he's not actually the worst quarterback in football. He's just regarded as the worst quarterback in football. I would say that entire process would cost a lot more money than $1 million. Is Creed worse than Nickelback in the public image?
I think so. How about Stained?
I feel
Stained has some bangers.
Oh, that's cuss band, Stained. Or Train. One of the two.
Train.
Meet Virginia.
Again, Gabe Morency has the greatest Train story of all time. Apparently they really like the cocaine.
Really?
Like a lot, though.
I mean, they're a rock band. What do you expect?
He said it was the most cocaine he'd ever seen a rock band do in his 25 years of being backstage at rock concerts.
And in fairness, Gabe's in a rock band, so that blows my mind.
It's true.
It's high praise.
It's true.
All right, let's get into the rankings. Running backs to start in the rankings. Now, again, these update throughout the week, so on a Tuesday night, they're not going to be set. That's why you need to tune into that Sunday show where I update the rankings with you.
Pat, why did you tell me to start Devonta Freeman on Monday morning?
I know. Out. Forever, potentially. Who knows? Dalvin Cook, I have in. Chris Thompson and Garion Johnson, I have as in. Out, I have Fournette, Devonta Freeman, Darren Sproles, Gio Bernard, Donta Foreman, and Robert Turbin. Seattle, Oakland, Pittsburgh, and Green Bay on bye weeks. Number 1 in the running back rankings for Week 7, Todd Gurley. Big shocker. Number 2, Saquon Barkley going up against Atlanta. Melvin Gordon, Zeke Elliott, Joe Mixon. That's the top 5. Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, James White, David Johnson, Sony Michel. Fantasy Pros has ranked Mark Ingram at number 12, which I disagree with because he's number 1 in worst place. Then TJ Yeldon, Philip Lindsay, Tevin Coleman, Carlos Hyde, Dalvin Cook, Tariq Cohen, Matt Breida, and Chris Thompson. First things first, Jake, in a PPR league, which these rankings are, would you start Tariq Cohen or Jordan Howard?
At this point, you have to start Tariq Cohen, even if it's a split. We've seen the split. We saw the split last week, and Jordan Howard looked good, but Jordan Howard wasn't getting all of the touches. So at this point, it is Tariq Cohen, because if you're going to give me 15 touches at Jordan Howard and you're going to give me 15 touches at Tariq Cohen, in a PPR, I'm leaning Cohen. In a non-PPR, I wouldn't be surprised if it's very close, given it Cohen's explosiveness.
Yeah, I think I'd still go Cohen regardless of format at this point. I mean, it's not just the snap rate, it's also the touch rate. He's touched the ball on more than 50% of his snaps the last 2 weeks. They've been the 2 highest snap counts he's seen all season, and he's averaging 9.2 yards per touch. So there's nothing you can really say that would make you disinterested in Cohen at this point. And for Howard, I mean, I would even argue might have him too high. Like I've had a situation.
It gets real dicey.
It does get dicey. Yeah, but I think we're past the point of matchup with Jordan Howard. I thought one of the most interesting stats I found this week was actually one for last week, and it won't really adjust too much considering the game script of that Dolphins-Bears game, but coming into Week 6, the Bears actually started their drives with the second highest positive point differential of any team in the NFL on average, trailing only the Chiefs. Generally meaning, on average, they were always in Jordan Howard positive scripts, and he still wasn't getting it done.
You're right, and that's where I said matchup and not game script, because I will agree with you. The last 2 weeks have been game scripts we would expect for Jordan Howard, especially go back to the Bills game. But matchup wise, that's why I was leaning, because Howard profiles a little bit better against the Patriots than Tariq Cohen does for running between those tackles. Yeah,
the Patriots also give up a ton of targets to running backs. I don't know.
The Patriots are just bad defense.
That's probably the best way to put it.
So something you mentioned with when Cohen's on the field, he's getting the ball. Sony Michel is very much in the same boat, that if he's on the field, they just give him the ball. Another guy who's kind of like that, because he was 3rd in terms of team snaps last week behind Royce Freeman and Devonta Booker, is Philip Lindsay, but every time he's on the field, he gets the ball.
I think it was 55% last week, and that was one of the stranger game scripts I think we're going to see for Denver. Like, he walks into a great situation
this week
against Arizona. I think that he's clearly the guy. I know when I first went through your rankings, it was a little jarring to see him that high, but we have to remember we are missing some very premium running backs on this slate.
Yeah, I have him at number 14, and for reference, I have Royce Freeman at number 20. I have Royce Freeman at number 29. I'm making a stand here. I think that one guy is significantly better than the other one as it pertains to fantasy value.
I don't disagree with that.
And for me, that's Philip Lindsay, and this is the best matchup you can get. Cardinals give up the most points to running backs.
But the problem is it's a third. It's not even 50 and then 30 and 20. It's all 3 of them are within 3 percentage points, all between around 30 to 34% of the touches. That's why. I can't get behind that. So I agree with you. I've been on hey, Lindsay looks the best. Lindsay is like Danny Woodhead. Danny Woodhead's been extremely productive in his past when he was playing unlimited touches, and Lindsay can do the same. All that being said, is if I'm looking at a few guys right behind him, specifically Tevin Coleman and Carlos Hyde, there's no way I'm starting Lindsay in front of them.
Why? Carlos Hyde's in basically the same situation now, too. He's played fewer than 50% of snaps the last 2 weeks, and this projects to be a higher scoring game.
That is a two-headed monster.
But that's also Duke Johnson's going to end up being on the field. But Lindsay is touching the ball so much when he's on the field that if he can get back up to, like last week against the Rams, the Broncos got behind by a ton early, and all of a sudden, Devonta Booker.
It was still only a third.
Probably not going to
That's what I'm saying, because Devonta Booker was on the field so
Probably
much.
not going to happen against Arizona, although I will say Denver has been atrocious on the road since like the last, I think it was November 2016 is the second most recent time they won a road game.
Well, I like Arizona Thursday night.
Sure.
At plus points, too. Also, odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But I like the 2.5. I can see it going up to 3. I've already bet the 2.5.
Sure. I would just say, because there is a part of me that agrees with Jake in the sense that I am generally a person, especially in the RB2 range, who wants to just take set in stone volume. And I think that is, if you're asking me who do I think is going to get more touches in week 7, Philip Lindsay, Carlos Hyde, or Tevin Coleman, I would say that Lindsay is probably going to be third on that list for me, but I think he has the highest upside. And I think it's a marginal difference in terms of the volume otherwise.
Well, here's the thing with Tevin Coleman. Maybe he's not good.
I wouldn't go that far. I just
Okay.
think like Judge, I'm going to actually, like his first name is Judge now.
Yeah, it's Judge. It's like Judge Reinhold. He's Judge Ito.
Yeah, Judge Ito. I mean, I just think Ito he's clearly covered out a role in this offense. Again, I have no problems with Tevin Coleman. I would just say that from what I've seen this season, Lindsay excites me more in terms of ceiling. And I think, again, I would agree with you. I think the volume difference is so marginal to me that I'd rather just go with who I think has the highest ceiling.
I'm going with what you said at the beginning with the Carlos Hyde is 2 guys versus 3. And about your Tevin Coleman statement, that's fine, but neither is Ito Smith. If you look at his touches, it was 2.2 yards. Like the guy's not carrying the ball.
He only scores touchdowns.
He only scores touchdowns, but also if you look at this specific matchup, the Giants struggle more with running backs in space than they do between the tackles, and Ito Smith is not the one that they're going to use in the passing game. Ito Smith's not the one that even asked to go outside the tackles that much. If you look at what the Giants did earlier this season to Ezekiel Elliott, they bottled him up for most of the game, and Ezekiel Elliott's by far worlds better than Ito Smith. So Ito Smith, if he's not getting the touchdown, which is very unlikely with this matchup, specifically when you have Damon Henderson and that front there, Snacks Harrison, I could just said that would have been much easier. I don't like Ito Smith, and I lean toward – that's why I think this could be more of a 60-40 split this week for Tevin Coleman.
Hey, if that's the case, then that's where he should be at number 15. I just think that Philip Lindsay is going to have a gigantic game on Thursday night. Putting the pole in the ground, I think you should definitely play him.
And, well, again, I mean, we're talking about top 15 guys.
You're playing everybody down till about, 24? You're playing most everybody.
Oh, I came up with this at the bar on the weekend, I think it was.
So it must be a good
Or maybe it was at Monday morning with Meanie. Either way, LaShawn McCoy is the new Frank Gore.
I had a similar revelation today, and it's been making me take a really long, hard look at these rankings, and it's tough because I want to be higher on Frank Gore than you are, but it's only when I put him against certain players where I'm like, he's essentially LaShawn McCoy. He's essentially Royce Freeman.
But with worse upside.
But again, there's no upside. I would have him above Drake, but we'll get to that later.
Well, let's get to it right now. I don't have either of them overly high in the rankings. I have Drake at 36, Gore at 37.
I just think that's a reasonable decision that people might be making on a buy. Like, I feel like Frank Gore is, especially in your smaller size leagues, I'd say in a 10-man league, Frank Gore is widely available.
I have to go pick him up to play in a league this week.
I'd have both of them higher.
Really?
The Lions can't stop the run.
The Lions and the Arizona Cardinals cannot stop the run.
Miami can only score on 90-yard Albert Wilson touchdowns.
This is true.
That's it.
No, also 90-yard Jakeem Grant touchdowns.
Okay.
Don't be a hater. Here's the thing, though, that I do like about Frank Gore with Osweiler and a quarterback. With Osweiler, you have to run more sort of formulaic sets. And I just feel like that helps Frank Gore's favor versus Kenyon Drake, because where Drake was coming in handy and where Drake found success, even last season a little bit with Cutler. I can't believe they ran.
But are we sure that Brock is starting again?
It's still up in the air. That's why there's no line on this game right now. But I would just say that if Brock is starting, it makes me higher on Frank Gore because they're not going to run this read option stuff. They run 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times a game with Tannehill. And generally in those read options, they're pairing Tannehill with Drake. So I just think
are we going to continue with this, or are we going to jump back down to him later?
Well,
do you want to continue?
We can jump down. You're the guest. You can talk about whoever you like.
Well, we haven't even got. I was asking because we haven't even gotten to your 20s. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, you can jump into the 20s if you'd like.
No. I mean, there's other people here. All right, fine. I'm just going to continue the conversation with Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore. I like them both higher than a lot of situations we have here. You have Buck Allen, who all of a sudden just got left out of the equation, and now we're down this Alex Collins road again.
Yeah, but I think that's totally script dependent. I just really don't think that there's a way that Baltimore gets up like 21-0
and look at who they're facing
on the
this
Saints.
week.
They're facing the Saints.
Right.
So they're going to have to pass. If they're passing all the time, then Buck Allen's going to be in the game.
I don't know. This game's
Alex Collins is seeing more. So, but the point is when they were using him last week, they went back to the whole Alex Collins is going to be our guy, going to be scoring inside the 10-yard line. Like, I'm just not confident in what Buck Allen's touches are. I'm not confident in Isaiah Crowell in that matchup. I'm just saying Wendell Smallwood, I think it's clear Clement is the better running back at this point, despite the fact that they split that backfield because Doug Peterson is always going to be a committee running back. I'm just saying I'm using Drake and Gore over a lot of more questionable situations because it is the Lions. Only because it is the Lions.
See, I think we're putting too much into matchup when it comes down to that. I just don't think that Drake and Gore in that Miami offense is any good.
It's not even.
I think that has to hurt them.
It goes back to what you were saying before. I mean, if you look at
this, and Drake plays twice as many snaps as Gore.
But this is the thing. This goes back to the exact same conversation we just had about Phillip Lindsay.
Phillip Lindsay's
Frank Gore's
good
on the field. Frank Gore's been kind of good this year. I hate to
not
say
really.
it, but he's been all right.
Fantasy-wise, has he? Was he scored more than 10 points once?
He's been
great.
I know he's the master.
Have
of
a
this.
trophy, Frank Gore.
Fantastic. I know he's the master of this, but he's got 38 touches, actually
twice,
41
by the way.
touches, 38
twice,
carries in the last 3 weeks. I would have him, I think, ahead of Royce Freeman. I would much rather play Frank Gore than Royce Freeman this week.
Royce Freeman's like getting at least
Especially
Devontae Booker's in there when they're passing.
I do, but I still have to hedge against the fact that look, Royce Freeman could end up with all the goal line work.
For suckers.
And if playing Frank Gore is for suckers.
Did you just say you had to pick up Frank Gore?
I do, but if Royce Freeman's not available.
That's fair.
If Royce Freeman was available, I would pick him up and play him over Frank Gore.
This is my conundrum because I wouldn't necessarily move Frank Gore up inside the top 30, but I would have him.
Listen, if I needed 4 points, which is looking pretty good this week for my team, then I would play Frank Gore.
I look, he's clearly the goal line back.
Is he? Because Drake was the one who fumbled on the 1 yard line.
That play got the notoriety because Gore had carried it the prior 4 times down the field. He just ran out of gas because he's 37,000 years old.
35.
Yeah, it's close enough. I rounded up.
But he still didn't get that touch. And he needs that touch in order to be valuable.
He's only the 6th running back in history.
Right before that.
To do what?
100 yards at the age of 35.
That's very impressive. He'll probably be the first one at 45 too to do it.
Play forever.
John Riggins did it like 7 times.
You said Clement is clearly the guy over Smallwood. I have Clement ranked over Smallwood. I went with that. I just think he's better.
He looks healthy too. I don't think there's going to be a restriction this week.
But Smallwood is still playing more, getting more touches.
No, but I think you could see that flip this week. But I still think, as Jake said, it's going to be like 45-45.
Yeah, that's going to be up in the air every week. As soon as Sproles is back, this is going to be a real headache.
Oh, sure.
And you probably won't be able to play any of them.
But if you're going to give me the talent, I'm going to take Clement. As it's to the point what Garion just said is coming off an injury, questionable, did have less touches than Smallwood last week, but clearly looked superior to Smallwood. And Smallwood, to be fair, heading into that game, had looked pretty good this season, even better than Clement at times. But if you watch that entire game, for anybody out there that missed it, at least Clement was getting positive yards on almost every single touch. Smallwood was getting hit in the backfield. He was just trying to stretch it out wide and even couldn't get back to the line of scrimmage. I mean, Clement just looked better in that game.
Of all the games on the main slate, so take out like the Monday Nighter and Sunday Nighter, which are 2 high games.
And the 9 a.m. game?
And the 9 a.m. game in London. But of all the games on the main slate, do you know which 2 have the highest totals?
Let's see.
Detroit?
It's scary. There's no game above.
There's
no game total above 50 on the main slate.
We don't have Pittsburgh. We've got the Saints in Baltimore.
It's the Browns and Bucks.
Oh, boy.
And Ravens and Saints.
What's the total on that game?
49.5.
That is way too high for a game outdoors.
I mean, how many points did the Saints score at the Giants? They scored, what, like 27? And they got stopped on the 2-yard line 5 times?
I guess.
Like the Saints
it just tends to work. I mean, Drew Brees just doesn't have the same kind of, at least from a fantasy perspective. And I realize that's empty sometimes, and it doesn't reflect, real life success. But I don't know. That just feels. The Ravens historically have been much better at home, and they've been a great defense so far this year. I'm just saying that's
we know that, but see, this is something I wrote about last year with Drew Brees. Drew Brees is still amazing on the road. He averages like 290 and 1.8.
You're comparing him against this untouchable phenom inside a dome. I understand that.
God at home. Yeah, exactly.
Juxtaposition is everything.
For everybody out there that falls into that narrative, I just want to make. I know you weren't. I just want to make that clear for everybody. It's not like he turns into Ben on the road.
Yeah, he's not Roethlisberger. I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying start Drew Brees this week. I'm just saying that's a high total for a game in Baltimore.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you can look at too, I think that one of the best ways to get to the Ravens defense is just kind of run on them and then open up the pass and end up on play action. But the Saints are an incredibly slow team this year, except for when they're behind. And then they're one of the fastest teams in football. So if the Ravens can jump out to a lead, it could just turn into a track meet. Because the Ravens are super fast regardless of the score.
I guess something to consider too is that few teams have had success running against the Saints so far this year. So if the Ravens do turn to the pass, while the Saints have allowed the highest completion percentage to opposing quarterbacks this year, passing the ball inherently is still just going to slow the game down.
Yes.
So we could get more plays in that capacity too.
Eckler. You mentioned like Gore. Eckler puts up more or better than Gore every week on like a third of the touches.
That's fair. Look, I have no problem with Austin Eckler. His efficiency numbers are off the chart. I'm not saying I would have Frank Gore above Austin Eckler. I'm just saying there's a certain class of running back in terms of guys who are inside timeshare splits that aren't the most successful timeshare split in football, like the Chargers. Like, it's crazy. Eckler actually leads the league in fantasy points per opportunity in a PPR at 0.74. He's tied with one guy. That guy is Melvin Gordon. It's insane how successful this backfield has been. And as you said, he has not even touched the ball more than 10 times in 5 of their 6 games this season. And yet he's still getting it done.
Pat just tried to strawman us. That's what he tried to do.
I would say so.
Well, I'm just looking at it right now.
I'm just looking at particular timeshares in backfields that I would say aren't exactly offensive utopias. And I would have Frank Gore ahead of Royce Freeman. I would have him ahead of Isaiah Crowell. I would have him ahead of Buck Allen, excuse me.
Buck
Allen?
Allen?
And I would have him definitely
Buck
ahead
Johnson.
It's a new running back I've created. There's so many crappy running backs. I need to create my own. And I would, like I said before, I would definitely have him above Drake, even in a PPR.
I might move Gore down.
That's fair too.
I think I'd play Benny Cunningham above Frank Gore.
They're your rankings. Do as you wish.
I'm not playing Frank Gore unless I have to. And I'm in a spot where I have to, so I have to play him. It sucks. I want to play Frank Gore.
That's fair.
I look forward to my 4 fantasy points. Oh, great. 11 carries for 44 yards. That's it.
But at this point, like, how is he vastly that different again from LaShawn McCoy?
Well, McCoy is going to end up with like 20 touches.
That's fair.
Well, that's
I think
2 weeks.
Gore's going to have 15. Again, I think I would have McCoy ahead of Jordan Howard, so maybe that was the wrong guy for me to pick necessarily, but you know, we're talking about 2 running backs who literally their teams don't touch the red zone.
All right, so let's say you get into the contest, right? And you're below 25 in the rankings. Is Frank Gore the guy that you would have higher?
No.
Who would it be for you, Jake?
It would be Kenyon Drake of the 2.
So you like Drake more than Gore?
Yeah.
I'm with Jake. I don't like him significantly more.
Look, I still don't think either's an RB2, but I would rather have Gore this week.
In PPR, can you turn to Duke Johnson again?
I think so.
Or has that been game script dependent the past 2 weeks?
It has been, but I think if there's a team that sets up well for Duke Johnson to do well against, it's the Bucs. I think they've proven they can score. And I think at this point we've gotten to a place where you can really just use the secondary and tertiary pieces of your team. And in this setting too, like I know we have the big 6-team buys coming up, but you know, with the 4 teams on bye and considering the caliber of 2 of those 4 teams, you're probably in a situation where I think turning to a guy like Duke Johnson, especially in a PPR.
Yeah, well,
the scariest part of Duke Johnson is if bad Jameis shows up early and they all of a sudden jump out to a lead and then forget about it. Duke Johnson's not seeing much of the rest of the game unless the Bucs somehow come back and run up the score. So that's the worst case scenario. That's what we have to accept with Duke Johnson is that we could be looking at a 2.
Or even worse potentially. Like with Connor on bye, Lynch on bye. I've been starting Richard in a couple spots. He's been good.
Yeah.
In
Sure.
PPR,
I mean,
every
look,
single
if
week.
we're trying to predict...
Chris Carson's a person that people have been starting. And
your Rocket Richard might get pretty good when we come back from the bye because all of a sudden Lynch has a groin issue.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I will not take anything John Gruden says seriously. If he says someone's hurt, I guarantee you they're super healthy.
Again, we don't even need to take anything they're doing seriously because they're one of the easiest script teams in football. They're just going to be down. They suck.
Will he make it past 3 years?
You would have to. The Raiders aren't in the business of just tossing money away.
I feel like that's been their business for like the last 20 years.
Yeah, but it's not like, hey, we'll fire you so we can pay someone else. We'll keep you so we don't have to pay someone else.
There is the Has John Gruden Been Fired Yet website, which is basically a continuous clock, and it tells you not only how many years of
how much money he's made?
How much money he's made since you've been on the site. It's quite good.
I like it.
Yeah.
What is it again?
John Gruden. I'm not even sure what the website is called.
Is John Gruden fired yet?
I think it's John Gruden.
It's something like
yet,
that?
Yeah.
That's good. Let's see here. Who else do I have? Marlon Mack. I have at number 28. It seems as if he's healthy, he's going to be their guy for half the time. He looked good.
He falls into that archetype of running back that we've talked a lot about so far, which is just he's only going to probably play 35 to 40% of the snaps, but he's going to carry the ball on at least half of those.
And this is a better script for him than last week was. And he's still playing a ton last week. And got the ball a ton.
Although again, like I'm not, and neither are you. He's not even an RB2 for you. It's a weird matchup. I mean, at this point, we kind of have to consider Buffalo like a stout defense.
Well,
right?
they're number 3 in DVOA as of this week. I was talking to Paul about this earlier. Do you think it's just teams don't try against Buffalo?
It's possible they literally don't game plan at all. I think Minnesota took that tactic.
Because we were talking about how the Bills actually have scored points this year outside of the Minnesota game.
Yeah.
So last week,
Green Bay game.
Watson threw a pick, and it got them in Texans territory. They kicked a field goal. And then the Texans muffed a punt. The Bills got it. Then they kicked a field goal. Peterman actually led a decent drive. But those were all their points. The week before against Tennessee, they kicked like 2 field goals, I think. And then the other one was Tywan Taylor fumbled on like his own 20-yard line. They took over there.
Yeah.
Like, I think teams and against the Packers, they couldn't score because Aaron Rodgers didn't throw a pick.
And this is kind of the crazy thing, because you talk about how often they're set up with amazing field position, and they are. I mean, LaShawn McCoy still doesn't have a rush inside the 5 this year.
But they're never inside the 5.
I know.
And if so, Josh Allen's calling his own number.
Well, maybe LaShawn
he's not
McCoy's
gonna be
in
there
line
this
for
week.
more carries inside the red zone with Nate Peterman.
Oh, do you mean Derek Anderson?
That's true. Derek Anderson's going to start this week. This is crazy.
He actually could start this week. By the way, who were we talking about at running back before? Because I was looking for the website and found it.
Oh, nice. We were talking about...
By the way, it's isgrudengonyet.com is the site.
It's more
and there's a
alliteration. I
big,
like that.
yeah, no. And it's got the year, like you said, years. And actually, it ticks up as soon as you hit the site. It tells you how much he's made since you've been on the site.
Exactly. See, it's perfect. So Mac, I like the best. And I was right on this one. It did hurt Naheem Hines because Hines didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to hurt
No, but
Hines.
he was still on the field a lot when they were passing down late. So
I think it was
there's
still only 43% by the end. I agree with you. I
but
think he's
I'm
going to play
saying-
the most.
And,
but-
and Turbin's probably going to be out with the shoulder injury.
Yeah.
So Wilkins
there's
might
still
actually see the
some.
field
My
again.
point is, there's some deeper hope for Hines in a PPR.
I feel like Wilkins is pretty much exclusively tied to Mac. I just don't see why.
It seems like they like Mac. I have Dalvin Cook at 17. I think that once they bring him back, he is going to be healthy.
It seems like he'll actually be healthy. So you're starting him if he's active.
And if not, I would actually put, because I still think that if Cook plays, I mean, the Jets aren't a walkover defense, so it's not the best of all matchups. But if it was no Cook and there was Murray, I'd probably have Murray at like 12.
Interesting.
Because I still think that Murray's going to eat, not like 20% of the touches go to Murray or something like that. Where if it's just Murray, he's getting all of them.
That's fair.
Yeah, but let's not forget he was terrible until he faced the Cardinals. I wouldn't start him over Yeldon or Coleman. Probably not. Hyde would have a discussion.
I think I'd put him at number 12. I think I'd put him in between Sony Michel and TJ Yeldon.
You just want to put him in front of Mark Ingram.
Of course I do.
I think I'm with Jake. I'd rather play Yeldon, but
How many fumbles from Mark
I think
Ingram
I'd have him
this
ahead
week?
of Lindsay.
Over under 20.
20 fumbles?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he'll even be able to get the ball because the Ravens will just have already sacked Drew Brees. He's trying to hand it off.
See, that's smart. Smart on the Ravens' part. Or,
There you
actually, it's bad news on the Ravens' part. They should let Ingram have it, strip him of the ball.
It's true. Well, so many options.
See, he's really proving his worst place credentials this year because everyone who has Kamara hates him. He comes back and Kamara sucks. Are you worried about Kamara? Kamara at all?
No.
I'm not
Oh,
worried.
go
like,
buy him. People are panicking.
I'm bringing up in the general sense. People are asking me, Jake. No need to be triggered.
No, I know. I'm not saying that to you. I am triggered. I'm triggered at the people on Twitter going, should I drop or not drop, but should I trade Kamara for Tevin Coleman? Or like, am I that worried that Kamara is not going to get anything going forward? Like, people are straight up like losing their mind over one game of Kamara.
And I think people lose sight of the bigger picture sometimes too.
No.
I know it's crazy. But I mean, we do this show every single week and we always skip past like the set in stone RB1s. Like, we're talking about TJ Yeldon is the 13th best back in football. Like, yeah, is Kamara in a perfect situation now? No. But still one of the 10 best situations in football.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Would you go this week if Thompson is back? Thompson or Adrian Peterson against the Cowboys? The Cowboys funnel a lot of things to the pass, so I would think that would favor Chris Thompson.
I would say Thompson in general. Anyway, I just think he's the more consistent of the two backs. That Cowboys defense looks fantastic.
They play Bortles.
Sure, they play Bortles, but they just have some very nice pieces. And if
Even before that.
Yeah, if Van
The
der Bosch
front
is going to
seven
be
is
good,
finally not suspended. Like they're actually all there now.
and their linebacking core, even without Sean, because the problem used to be when Sean Lee's not there, you're talking about sieves at the linebacking core. They've now got, I mean, their first round pick this year, Van der Bosch, and then is it Van der Esch?
Van der Esch.
Van der Esch. And then just, I mean, Jake can attest to this. Jalen Smith just looks healthy. And Jalen Smith would have been a top 5 pick in the NFL draft 2 years ago if he hadn't blown out his knee. Like, he is a fantastic linebacker. So they've got a really, really good front seven. And I feel like
Only one running back is top 50 yards against them rushing all year.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, Chris Carson of who it was, but they've limited pretty much everybody. That's why, to answer that question as well, I'm with Garion in the fact of what kind of running back do you want against the Cowboys. I'm going with the pass catcher.
Is Ito Smith too low at number 39 for the fact that he scores 20 touchdowns a week? He scores more touchdowns than Mark Ingram fumbles.
Yeah. No. You know that. I just complained about Ito Smith before.
The judge. You gotta have the judge.
I think he's properly ranked. Like you have to
39?
have him
Yeah.
around RB3, RB4 territory because he has that touchdown.
I think Blunt has a better chance of scoring a touchdown this week than Smith does. That'd be my prognostication on it, that if you were just playing touchdown or nothing, Blunt would be the guy.
Yeah. Do you move Blunt up significantly if Johnson doesn't play?
I would. I have Garion at number 31. I think that he's healthy enough.
Yeah, I would think so too.
31 seem fair? Do you know what my single favorite running thing that's happened this year is? Are people who get very triggered by the lack of usage that Aaron Jones gets. Because everyone just wants to make Aaron Jones happen so badly.
Twitter exploded.
I think that, you have the touchdown called back, then he doesn't get in. It was marvelous.
I even had Aaron Jones, and it was goddamn hilarious.
And then Ty Montgomery got the touchdown.
Montgomery got the touchdown.
But, sometimes the stuff is staring you in the face. Does he look better? Maybe it's like one of those things where, and Jake, we bring this up all the time. Maybe Aaron Jones is just better in small doses, like Lamar Miller was in Miami. And maybe the Packers know that. Maybe that's what they know.
I feel like bordering on Mike McCarthy being an imbecile is probably the right way to go. So I don't have a problem in this specific case, but I know what you're saying in regard to Garion Johnson, where it's like, yes, Garion Johnson is the better of the two running backs. Yes, he's the more explosive of the two running backs. Does that matter right now? No. He is going to split carries almost evenly with LeGarrette Blount. It's just how it works.
No, not even that. Garion Johnson is the one running back for the Lions whose role doesn't change whether they're up or whether they're down. The two people that change are Blount and Riddick. When they're up, we see more Blount. When they're down, we see more Riddick. Garion Johnson's actually same to same like every single game.
Do you think that I have Breda and Sideshow Raheem too far apart in the rankings?
I'm curious.
Is this? I really wish his last name wasn't Mostert. It was Mozart.
Breda looked.
Either way,
Breda looked really good. So did Mostert.
He was composing a symphony of runs.
But
but he looked terrible just last week. Everybody just forgets that.
You'd also have to think that just an extra week of rest for Breda, he's going to be closer to 100%. I don't know what this guy is made of, because he's had a season-ending injury about 3 times already this year.
And he's yet to miss any time.
So he's indestructible. That's fantastic. I initially I was even thinking of having Breida higher, but yeah, with how Mostert, this could just be the Packers' defense is awful too.
Yeah.
Well, but if you're also looking at so the one thing about Mostert too is the matchups. And if you look at this week, if you look at the Rams and their scoring in the offense and the fact that they funnel through similar to the Broncos, the middle of the field, he should see a little bit for the people asking should I pick him up after what happened last night? Maybe in a deep PPR league if you're desperate, but he's going to, if this was a matchup where they should be in contention and it wasn't that kind of defense, we would see more Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris was non-existent, but he's not completely never going to see touches again for the rest of the season.
He pulled a Poochie. He went back to his home planet before the game.
I did enjoy, though, how essentially Kyle Shanahan just eliminated the slow, no upside players in his offense in Pierre Garçon and in Alfred Morris, and all of a sudden, wow, they look good and explosive, sort of. Again, I could attribute a lot of that to just the Green Bay defense being porous, but
people keep asking me, would you put a number 1 on Ito Smith? I don't see why anyone would do that.
Nope.
No.
He's not even the best waiver wire pick. I think I'd rather still pick up Marlon Mack.
Although I would
100%.
I would say I think we've started to reach a point where, because I always used to kind of ask this question week to week too, which is, if I have number 1 waiver priority, would I give it up for so-and-so? And I'd always say, wait on it. I'd
rather burn it on Jermaine Kearse this week than burn it on Ito Smith.
I don't think we're in a situation now with running backs where I don't think there are going to be huge season-changing injuries all the time, because so many teams already use split-back systems, and of the teams that don't, they're so rare, we already know that, and we draft the handcuffs. Even if you don't own that running back anyway. James Conner was drafted.
It's like Malcolm Brown and Chase Edmonds are the only 2 out there, really. And they're probably owned.
Spencer Ware.
And Malcolm Brown's not even going to be the guy. It's going to be John Kelly.
We don't know
that. So I think it would be.
John Kelly.
It's Malcolm Brown. They love Malcolm Brown.
Yeah, I mean, has John Cal even dressed for a game yet?
No, but
Unless they're keeping him fresh.
They only dress 2 running backs every single game. That's their philosophy.
All right, let's move to wide receivers. I have T.Y. Hilton is in. We'll see how that goes. I have Ridley and Sanu is in. John Ross is in. Terrell Pryor with his groin injury in as well. Rashard Matthews is working out with the Jets. No word on whether he signed or not, but we'll see.
They have the best receiving core.
The best. Very tremendous receivers. I hear great things. They're the best.
I can't believe anybody's taking a chance on him.
Rashard Matthews or Pryor?
No, Matthews.
Why?
Like I said before, at least Vontae Davis up and retired. Like he just quit football. Like this guy quit the team and still wants to try and play. This is the definition of taking your ball and going home. I can't believe anybody wants to listen to this guy.
I would be offering Rashard Matthews like a position in the front office, possibly as a scout or something, because I think he knew how bad the Titans were going to be and just got the hell out of there.
Hey,
good for him.
The 3-3 Titans.
AFC football.
No.
Probably out. I have Cooper Kupp, Little Quincy, who's probably definitely out.
Yeah.
Probably like 4 to 8
I think it was 3 to 4 weeks, yeah.
High ankle sprain is usually more than that.
Unless you're Matt freaking Breida.
Yeah, he had a mid-ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain.
It's not a thing.
Well, apparently it is. Dante Pettis, Travis Benjamin, Rashard Higgins, Jamison Crowder, Marcus Johnson, Trent Taylor, Ryan Grant, and Tavon Austin. Marcus Johnson's actually been put on IR since I did up this sheet, and Jamison Crowder's not going to practice until Friday, so we're not going to know until Friday. That would lead me to believe he's not very healthy.
Yeah, it's not playing.
Obviously, I went with bye weeks. Number 1, your boy, Jake, Adam Thielen.
Yeah. How about that?
Then it's AJ Green, Tyreek Hill, Julio, Odell, Michael Thomas, Brendan Cooks, Robert Woods, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins. In 2, Mike Evans, Tyler Boyd, Stefan Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Jarvis Landry, John Brown, Kenny Golladay, Alshon Jeffrey, Corey Davis, Golden Tate. And then, I mean, we're still into like the must-start territory with Allen Robinson and Calvin Ridley. I love Jermaine Kearse.
Is Calvin Ridley a must start?
I think so, yeah.
He's like the 4th option on that team.
He scores touchdowns.
Yeah.
He hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks.
Not recently.
Yeah,
He scored 70%
so
of his
he has-
fantasy points this season in 2 games.
Okay. I like Calvin Ridley. I think he's good.
Okay.
Jermaine Kearse.
Yes.
He's the new Quincy.
I guess, yeah.
He's going to have like 10 targets a game.
Until I don't I
Pryor's
have
gonna
no
play- Pryor's
grasp
gonna,
on this.
Pryor's going to
receiving
play
core.
the outside, or Rashard Matthews is going
Yes.
to play the outside.
Sure.
And Kearse is going to play the slot.
No,
That's
you're
where Darnold throws.
You're right.
And that's where you attack the Vikings defense. This is, yes, Jermaine Kearse. I actually already had as a sleeper this week. I didn't even highlight him. I was going to be ready to highlight him in your rankings, but I like how high you have him.
Probably nothing, but just was interested on your guys' take on this. People still don't throw at Richard Sherman, like, at all.
Okay.
Do you worry
That's
at all?
because he's getting all handsy.
I mean, that's the Seattle philosophy. Do we worry at all about one of those 2 guys on the outside? Like, by
Maybe
positioning
he'll
Robert,
lock down Josh Reynolds.
I mean, I guess. So in that scenario, does I guess Cooks is playing the slot then?
I think that Sean McVay will do, if that's
was
a
my
thing,
kind of
it'll
philosophy.
be one of these things where they just move people around.
Yeah.
They're one of the few teams that do that. You'd think more teams would do
Yeah.
it and be like, oh man, can't use AJ Green today. He's always on the left side.
That's true. The ace in the hole was that Sean McVay is smart enough to figure out how to use his talented pieces, which is fine. But it was just shocking to me. I looked it up last week that he's the only cornerback who's past a certain number of routes covered that teams are targeting on less than 10% of his routes. And
Well, this
Green Bay just straight up never did last week
Well,
either.
this happens a lot too. Like this happened with Nnamdi Asamoah for years. That no one targeted him for 3 years, and then as it turned out, by the time they started throwing in his direction, he wasn't any good anymore.
I mean, that's why I was kind of shocked because I was assuming coming off a
Ruptured
devastating
Achilles?
leg injury at the age he is, people would be trying to test Richard Sherman. That has not been the case so far.
Maybe they just know that we can just throw it everywhere else. And
Their
that's
other
fine.
corners are terrible, so yeah, that is a way to go.
So after Kearse, I have Crabtree, Hilton if he plays. Although it's a bad matchup, you probably
Still like him more than that spot, though, if he's playing.
Do you?
Yeah, because when we get to it, I guess the same thing is going to say is what do we have to do for people to start respecting Andrew Luck? I'm talking about it the past 2 weeks. The dude just throws 50 times a game, throws for 300 yards a game, no matter who's out there. If T.Y. Hilton's playing with him, look at it this way. I'm going to go back, and I'm certainly starting him over Corey Davis at this point.
I like the Corey Davis matchup. I know the Chargers D played a little bit better last week, but
Then they actually play number 1 wide receiver somewhat solidly.
He's got so much of a target share.
But
though.
here's the thing about Tennessee: they have no number 1 receivers.
No, Corey Davis is the number one receiver.
He's the number one. But like, when does the target share stop mattering? When the quarterback play and the offense is this bad? At some point, this.
True.
I love Corey Davis. At this point, the target share means nothing with him. There is going to finally be a week where it turns into something. It might be this week. I'm not going to play certain guys. Like I would go Tate, I would go Allen Robinson, I would go Curse, I would go Hilton. I'm going to start guys I trust over the offense of what we've seen from the Titans so far.
All right, I'm willing to move Corey Davis down and overrank on my part. Would you play Mohamed Sanu, a banged up Mohamed Sanu or Corey Davis?
No. I would play Corey Davis, but the biggest, I would almost, like I said, I would just almost flip Corey Davis and T.Y. Hilton, but then I would still play Corey Davis in front of Crabtree, but since it's PPR, I would actually play Curse in front of Davis.
I like Crabtree. I can see Crabtree more. Would you play Edelman or Corey Davis? Garion.
I think Edelman.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was he and Josh Gordon who ran the most possible routes they could last week. They run 39 each. I think it's still going to be one of those cases, like, you're not going to be Chris Hogan level frustrated on a week-to-week basis, but there are going to be weeks where Edelman's just shut out. But I still think, like Jake said, at a certain point, until Tennessee actually moves the football and scores more than 2 touchdowns in a game, probably just go with a team that's going to score 40 points.
Kiki or Corey Davis. I like Kiki more than Fuller this week. We just saw Cole Beasley kind of give you the blueprint of how to get to Jacksonville. That's Kiki's role in this offense.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think
now, this all depends on whether Deshaun Watson can be upright to throw the ball. Then that's to be
why
seen.
I would still go Corey Davis.
Yeah.
So Corey Davis.
You're also,
but in terms
also,
of
at what you also have to be smart about it and say, all right, the target share, the volume, everything we argued for Corey Davis, and I just made the point. Like, at what point does it not matter? But at the same time, we do also have to acknowledge we're talking about a number 1 with 30% target share versus the number 3 in a slot advantageous situation, which means more. And in that case, I'm going to go Corey Davis.
All right, so I'll throw in Corey Davis between Edelman and Kiki.
I will say, though, Will Fuller's like borderline unplayable this week. Because if you think that Deshaun Watson's going to have more than 2.5 seconds to ever let a Will Fuller route develop,
you just throw a really high looping pass, like just let Will Fuller like when Nelson throws.
Doesn't even need to be that high, just really far.
Yeah, it's true, just really, really far.
So the rest of the rankings. So Sanu's 30, Chester Rogers I have at 31. I can just see my DraftKings team now. I'm going to pay up for running back, and I'll have like Jermaine Curse. I guess I can't. Can I play him? Kiki's on the main slate, right? Play Kiki, Jermaine Curse, and Chester Rogers. Those will be my receivers.
I keep getting thrown off because I keep assuming the games in London will have to feature Jacksonville at some point.
Yeah,
and I know they have one, but it keeps messing me up.
So
how high does Chester Rogers go if T.Y. Hilton doesn't play?
I think he might go down.
Really?
I might end up playing Zach Pascal instead. I'm scared for Tre'Davious White, man.
He's got the second most targets of.
I'm scared
But it's he's a more slot-oriented receiver, though. Is Tre'Davious White going to
Who, Pascal, or are you talking about
Rogers?
Rogers is actually, outside of that that was technically a garbage time touchdown last week. Was miserable up to that point.
Sure.
He's very close behind Antonio Callaway when it comes to targets and not converting them.
Because Ryan Grant's probably not going to play either.
No, following some Colts beat writers today, it seemed like they were pretty confident neither was going to play.
So Pascal and Eric Swoop.
Well,
it's like Zach Pascal is like a real sleeper then, like a legitimate sleeper this week.
Can't catch.
Andrew Luck's going to hand the ball to them. Here you go. Maybe they'll make Naheem Hines a receiver. I don't know.
Not a bad
idea. Is Jack Doyle
going
to be back this week? Probably not.
I don't think so.
Is he dead? Does he have the same hips as my grandma?
Maybe.
That's not good. He needs a replacement surgery. So Rodgers at 31, Josh Gordon, Nelson Aguilar, Gabriel, Godwin, Watkins, Reynolds, Kirk, Shepard, and Will Fuller. Shepard's down because Evan Ingram's probably going to be back. Who did you say? Godwin higher?
Gabriel. What more does he need to do?
I mean, he didn't even score a touchdown last week. And they scored all the points in that game.
He's caught his last 12 targets the last 2 weeks. He's got 100 and 100. I was very reluctant to get on the Taylor Gabriel bandwagon, but what more does he need to do?
I don't know, man. The guy's getting like 4. You said he's got, 12 of his past 12 targets?
In 2 games.
Yeah, so what's going to happen when he doesn't catch every pass?
100. It doesn't matter. He's getting good volume. I'm playing him over Sanu.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably Aguilar, too. I feel like Aguilar is a very floor player. And
yeah, that's fine. I mean, he had, 3 for 94 last week?
Yeah, but that was the first time all season he's ever been utilized more downfield than 2 times a game. His his route tree is essentially within 5 yards of the quarterback.
I see. I think that
And
Philadelphia
the Giants
Carolina
essentially
game.
don't have a third corner.
I also think that the Philadelphia Carolina game could be a very high scoring game.
I agree with you. I think both those defenses are a little overrated. But
Well, Carolina just has a pretty decent run defense. They have no pass defense.
yeah, it's been that way for like 3 years.
What do you mean they have no pass
Since they got rid of
defense?
Josh Gordon.
I think right now they're 28th in pass DVOA. And they're like 9th in rush
Let's
DVOA.
double check that. I know they haven't even given up 1,000 yards yet.
This is what I was looking at earlier. Hopefully it's not wrong. I think I wrote it into something.
I'm gonna check. Hold on.
Maybe it was the Eagles.
Pulling it up.
Maybe that was the Eagles I'm thinking of and got it backwards.
The Eagles do have a porous pass defense, but
Oh yeah, the Eagles' pass defense is abysmal. That's where you attack them. Good job, Eli Manning. Yeah, the Panthers are actually almost top 10. They only have 2 games where somebody's hit 100. Actually, 2 games where anybody's even topped 80 yards against them. They only have 4 wide receiver touchdowns on the year.
why do I feel like their schedule's been strange though?
I don't know why, because it's been Cowboys, which that's fine.
So I'm
but
saying they
Falcons,
faced Dak, he's faced Eli.
Andy Dalton and Matt Ryan in back-to-back weeks with those
Okay.
offenses.
Fair.
And then Odell Beckham beat him up, and last week was the Redskins. So that's kind of a mixed bag.
I would say they've gotten to face 3 of the 10 worst quarterbacks in football.
Alex Smith is not one of the 10 worst quarterbacks in
Well,
football.
I mean,
He's
you were
having
on
a
this
down
show.
year,
You
but-
were on this show, but I'm just saying you were on the show 2 weeks ago, correctly saying that he just clearly doesn't seem comfortable with his playbook
Yes.
yet. Like this
I
is not a
agree.
good
Yeah.
offense.
That I'll agree with you there.
Carolina is 21st in pass DVOA. And
Is
they
that
are
Dave?
They're adjusting for. All right, that I'm not going to complain too much about that.
Yeah, I think they can be had through the air, is all I'm saying.
Sure.
And Carson Wentz has looked better every single week he's been back.
I would agree.
Speaking of like the matchups in the Giants, I still think Sterling Shepard's too high, and I think Josh Reynolds is a little too high for the fact that we're just slotting him into that third spot.
No, he's probably too low. He should probably be like 15th.
No.
I really don't think it's going to matter.
I
I
don't
don't-
know
I
if
don't
you'll
think
see
it's
the
a plug
same
and play
level of
like that.
volume, yeah.
He's a deep ball receiver, and when he came out of college, and he hasn't had a lot of time to develop because they've had all their options and haven't had him on the field that much. Still a little bit raw of a receiver.
I mean, you have to consider the downside that goes into him, but I think you need to consider the upside in this offense that can go with him too. Like if you gave me an over-under of 13.5 PPR points, I'd probably bet the over. I'd probably get plus money on it because
Yes.
more people would bet the
Look,
under.
I have
But
no
think
problem
that
with
he
him at
could go for a big
37.
game here. What's that?
I have no problem with the 37. I had a problem when you started saying, he's probably going to be top 20. I know it was a joke, but still, like, I think 37 is a fine spot to have him because you can kind of bake in some upside there. But I think the floor is, like, cavernous. Like, he could just not be involved in this game.
I don't see if Cooper Kupp doesn't play, he's involved in this game.
Where
And
though?
he's gonna,
I mean,
he's
that's
gonna
the big
play,
question.
but
That's the big question. Is like, is he going to be the slot guy? And I don't know that he's equipped to do that because
I
again,
think they're going to figure out a way to move all these guys around.
But I think the most
bump Robert Woods to the
logical
slot,
and
then they'll bump
obvious
Brendan Cooks to the slot.
But I think the most obvious and logical solution here is you just sacrifice him to Richard Sherman's side of the field and go, okay, if you want to stop Josh Reynolds from catching passes, like they stopped Equinemius St. Brown.
Let's give Kyle Shanahan some credit here and be like, you know what? This isn't working. Brandon Cooks has 400 yards already. Let's put Richard Sherman on him.
He doesn't know what a defense is. Didn't stop him last night.
I mean,
Richard Sherman
I'm
was
looking
lined up
deeper.
against Equinemius St. Brown like every single snap. They were
I'm
perfectly
starting
content with
Demarius
that.
Thomas in front of him.
Demarius Thomas is getting put on notice this week. If he has more than 2 catches, I'm going to be fucking stunned.
What do you mean? He's had 2 good games in a row,
Now he gets Patrick Peterson.
and Patrick Peterson is not a shadow
Who else is he going to cover in this game?
Ben Wicke has also been a pretty good cornerback.
because he's
graded
not
up
a
at
shadow.
PFF.
What do you think? You think the Broncos are going to go out there and say, "Hey, Demarius, so speaking of the sacrificing, you just get to line up with Patrick Peterson this entire game. We're just going to eliminate you from our offense."
When we're dealing with Vance Joseph, yes. That sounds exactly like something he would do.
That's true.
Again,
Again, I will say, Ben Wicke's been rather good this season. He's graded out top 15 by PFF, their other corner. And this fly is here every time I'm here.
The fly never shows up, and you're like that
maybe
person
that's
who
a hint.
Yeah, you should show up with
Maybe you should
stink lines
shower.
coming off you. Josh Gordon, as soon as I released the ranking, someone's like, Josh Gordon at 32? Way too low. Has he finished inside the top 30 at receiver in any week this year outside of like one?
I'm not
I don't know,
even
but
sure
everything's pointing in
had
the
the
right
line.
direction. You know, people would go bananas if he would have caught that touchdown. That
But
got
he
passed
didn't catch the touchdown.
No,
And
I
this is-
said
it's,
you
it's
know
a bad,
people would be
it's a
going
bad
bananas.
matchup. And like even it's just like, yeah, his snaps are trending up. They're like Bill Belichick says he's definitely going to play a lot, and the quote's like, yeah, I think he could play more.
Is
And
it
everyone's like, oh, he's going to play 100% of snaps. So good.
a bad matchup though?
I don't think it's a great matchup.
Look, I don't look at the Patriots and ever go. I don't base my thought process aside from the running backs on what the matchup is. I just assume that passing offense is going to be superior to whatever. they come
Yeah,
up against.
this is exactly the type of defense that gives Brady problems. On the road, good pass rush.
You need a research assistant. Why am I the one looking up to see if he's in the top 30?
If Khalil Mack is injured, which it seemed like he was last week,
Yeah,
they
but
went up
that's
against
last week.
They went up against a terrible Dolphins offensive line that's missing 2 starters and got a grand total of 0 sacks against Brock Osweiler. If Mack is not healthy, this Bears defense is not good.
Not good.
It's still
they
good.
were
It's
good
just not-
last year without Mac.
Yeah, it was good before. It's
They have
it's
famous.
fine.
They have
They're
famous
fine.
Amos.
Fine, they're good, but do I give them a second thought against the Patriots? No.
Oh, I will agree with that, Pat. By the way, you are correct, sir. He finished one time inside the top 30.
Yeah, so I think that ranking him at 32 is sensible.
We weren't arguing that.
No, I was saying that.
Yeah.
I was getting blowback against ranking him too low. It's like, what's he
Well, of
done?
course.
I will say though, like he's not someone who you're looking at what he's done in the 6 weeks prior. I mean, he hasn't played 6 games, but like Jake said, everything is trending in the right direction. I don't dislike it if someone's excited to play Josh Gordon this week. I think that what he did in week 6 speaks much greater volumes than what he did in week 1 to week 5.
Sure,
Yeah.
Because situations have changed
But
considerably.
we're also talking about a defense that they're playing is substantially better than the one they played last week. Let's say that.
Fair.
And you're also dealing with.
if we wanna just
we're
do
also
8
dealing with the Patriots. And you said, hey, there's going to be weeks where Julian Edelman gets written out. He has nothing. The same thing's going to happen to Josh Gordon.
No, I agree. But if we're going to play the A to B game where they're playing a better defense, we could also say that the Bears just played the worst offense in football and gave up 31 points.
He got to them. Too hot in Miami.
Too
hot. And they weren't prepared for Brock Osweiler.
You got to spend weeks
Brock
game
Osweiler
planning
is
for
like
the
a
Brock
knuckleball
Lobster.
pitcher.
That's it. That's an interesting
If
take.
you're not prepared for him, he can throw you all out of whack.
He's strangely tall.
Yeah, like he's like 10 feet tall. You don't know what's going on.
Interesting. I can get behind that.
That's my theory on
Okay.
the Brock Ness monster.
I like that.
All right. Godwin over Deshaun Jackson? For sure?
Yeah, but I don't feel great about that ranking because they are essentially splitting that job.
Yeah, but I think in a
wrote that up in the waiver
PPR
column. Their snaps are almost identical, and it's basically Humphreys is the slot wide receiver, and so it's basically Mike Evans, Humphreys, and then Deshaun Jackson and Godwin are sharing that role.
I think that one of them has a good game. I'm not sure. I think it's
You're right,
Godwin, but it might not be. So I feel like I need to keep Jackson highly
again,
as well.
I think it's format specific. I think it's easier to bank on Chris Godwin in a PPR, and it's much easier to bank on Deshaun Jackson in a standard.
Cole Beasley, 44. Too low? Or is that a one? That feels like a 1 week.
Yeah,
trend.
that was an aberration. Yeah. That was a very unique. Somehow it was rewarded that the Dallas Cowboys cracked the Jacksonville defense by just straight up not signing receivers.
Didn't we say? Isn't that we said on the show last week? Or was that during the pick show? It's just like that was my argument against Cust of why Dallas would win that game. It's just like jokes on Jacksonville. They have no one to cover.
Yeah, it's true.
No, that wasn't on this show.
We talked about all the empty calorie targets that Corey Davis gets. How about Antonio Callaway?
Oh, he should be lower.
He got a 2-point conversion.
Which was the most
51
difficult catch of the
targets.
day. He's making Ted Ginn look like he had good hands in his prime. I have no hands days.
So is Antonio Callaway the new Brandon Lloyd? He can only make really tough catches?
Maybe.
That's I said that about Plaxico Burress. He drops all the easy ones and it's worse than that. It's worse than those. He's making Kelvin Benjamin look like he has good hands.
Did I feel like I read this somewhere. Does Kelvin Benjamin really only have 8 catches this year?
Yeah.
I'm so glad I ranked him in worst place.
Because the stat you probably saw, half of his passes have been deemed uncatchable, and he's only caught of the catchable passes something like 43 or 39%, somewhere in there. It's like right around 40%.
Even in his prime, he was inefficient, and this offense is just a nightmare.
I know. I really wish I could go back on that whole hey, if he only catches 50% of his targets, it'll still be a good season.
Well, by actual tracking, Football Outsiders released this today. I saw that the Bills' offense is the second worst offense of all time through 6 weeks.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
What's number one?
I believe it's like the 2004 Dolphins.
No, they had been on track to be the worst. They were the worst ever graded, but they actually ended up being like minus 29%.
No, through 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, through 6 weeks.
Through
sure.
6 weeks, it's the 2004 Dolphins, and now it's
Which
number 2
is-
is the Bills. I don't even remember what team
Is
that
that
is.
Ray Lucas? I can't remember who
I
the
feel like that's a Fiedler year.
Brian Greasy? No, I think that was right after Fiedler left, maybe? Because Fiedler was half decent.
Well, you can talk about it.
2000?
You can talk about it on your Dolphins podcast.
Anyway, I don't know. Speaking of Dolphins,
None.
I think Albert Wilson's low.
Albert Wilson is going.
Look, I know you can't. I know you can't predict.
Fiedler for half the season and AJ Feely for the rest.
AJ Feely. He threw 7 pick sixes that year.
I believe the Eagles got 2 second-round picks for him.
Yeah,
too?
something like that.
Awesome. Here's the thing about Albert Wilson. Either you have him ranked where I do at number 50, or you rank him above Adam Thielen.
Look,
That's it. Those are the 2 rankings you have for him.
I'm not saying there's a tell because you're right. He's the most boomer, but he's the epitome of a best ball player. But I will say, across the last 3 weeks, his targets have gone 6, 6, 9. He's being more involved in this offense. He's targeted on 25% of his routes, which is a very high number. Julio Jones is targeted on 28% of his routes, and he outsnapped Devontae Parker 50-4 last week.
I don't want to play any
Well,
Dolphins receiver.
Devontae Parker's done.
That's fair.
I don't want to play potentially 0 Albert Wilson in my
That's
lineup.
fine. Look, I'm just saying
I'd
this
rather
point.
just play him on DraftKings
Fine.
if I'm going to do anything.
That's okay. But for people out there who are a little more open-minded,
No,
Well,
you sound like the world's biggest Dolphin fan.
I originated the don't play a single
And
Dolphin
you-
where
and
it
you
was
were
like,
right.
oh my God, I
you were
love
right.
Kenny Stills so much. Kenny Stills, the wide receiver 1. Oh my God, I love Kenny Stills. You know who's actually the wide receiver 1 for the Dolphins? Albert freaking Wilson.
0
Okay,
point Albert
okay,
Wilson.
wait. And to your point, which
Mr.
means
0.
which
Over under
means
0.5 fantasy points this week.
0. I'm going to take the over.
He's going to get Darius Slay. That's the point. If he's going to be treated as the number 1, he's getting the worst matchup this week. Darius Slay is a top 12 corner.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily think you can game plan them like that. I don't think that they are a team conducive to a shadow corner coverage. Because Albert Wilson's going to line up as
he
the
doesn't have
running
to
back
shadow him the
sometimes.
entire game, but if he gets the attention of Darius Slay more often than anybody else in the secondary for the Lions, that's going to matter. And to his point, it could be a 2-point game.
I would say this right now. I would expect Darius Slay to line up against Kenny Stills because he's still perceived to be the Dolphins' number 1 receiver. He leads them in air yards. He runs
I think Lions and Patricia are a little bit smarter than that.
I don't know. He's a rocket scientist, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay. Sleepers this week. If you just had to randomly throw someone in and people have gone and picked up Albert Wilson at this point, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
People are owning him. I think Willie Snead in a revenge situation against the Saints,
Has nothing to do with revenge. It has to do with the fact that he's got a great PPR floor and it's the slot against the Saints.
I think all 3 Ravens receivers are in play.
Sure.
When we get to the quarterbacks.
But the most exploitable spot is in the slot against the Saints.
Saints receivers, Traquan, Cam Meredith, Ted Ginn Jr. I don't know which one, if any of them, I would want to play, but I have Traquan the highest at 65, Cam Smith at 66, and Ted Ginn at 69. I just have no idea which one, if any, it's going to be.
I don't.
Meredith.
Meredith for you?
Yeah, if Ginn's back, Smith's going back to the bench.
Yeah. I just wouldn't play. I'm not interested in this matchup in any of them.
I think DJ Moore could have a day against the Eagles as well.
Sure. Again,
That's fine.
playing
I
any
think
outside receiver against the Eagles is a decent
They
way to
also
go.
struggle with really fast receivers. So
Yeah, that's fine.
Curtis
We're
Samuel
talking
could have like
about
a gadget play
too.
too.
Paul Richardson for a sleeper. I actually think Paul Richardson's too low.
Paul Richardson at 49, too low?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I could see
and
moving him up.
I'm not saying go overboard with what just happened last night, but how do you rank Marquise Goodwin at 51?
I'm not playing Marquise Goodwin.
Really? I mean, they're going to
He's
be
the
passing
number 1 wide receiver.
ton
Steve
in
Beathard
that
is
game.
going to throw a million passes.
Is he going to end up catching 70 yards? You think it's going to happen all the time?
No, but there was
but
still a
he's the
certain
number
level of
one.
volume in that game.
What do you have, 3 catches on
Yes.
4 targets?
Look,
No, he's going to.
All I'm saying is-
Beathard's going to continue to throw the ball 40 times.
yeah, he threw the ball. He dropped back 59 times 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
He dropped back a ton of times yesterday. They are now 10-point home dogs against the Rams. They're going to spend the entirety of the second half throwing the football.
I just worry that...
And Pierre Garçon, again, is being burnied down the
I
field.
just worry that the Rams defense, not as bad as Green Bay's defense. That could have been
The Rams
very...
defense, secret terrible.
It's okay. Rams defense, maybe secret terrible, not as bad as the Packers defense.
No,
That's easy to
fair.
say, though.
but they have no cornerbacks. None.
Not doing it.
Okay.
Goodwin. I would start Goodwin and Richardson both in front of at least Cole Beasley, if not higher.
I think I'd just rather take the floor Cole Beasley. Like Paul Richardson, I can see Paul
But
Richardson.
again, what's the difference between Marquise Goodwin and Will
Cole
Fuller?
Beasley?
Will Fuller has a track record of actually doing this stuff?
Really? He's played like 9 professional games.
And he has what? Touchdowns in 7 of them?
And like I just said, there's going to be no time for Will Fuller to run a route this game.
If he is healthy, he's going to be running wind sprints down the field.
We want a Goodwin
Garion.
Fuller bet?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great.
$1,000.
You glossed
Don't have
over-
$1,000.
Then there's no bet, sir. Put your money where your mouth is.
I don't have the money. Nah.
Too
Can we talk about this for a second? Can we stop glossing over the fact that you just called Cole Beasley's floor appealing? What this is, he's the Frank Gore of freaking wide receivers.
For PPR formats, though, Frank Gore doesn't catch the ball.
No, Cole Beasley's still floor in PPR is okay. Enjoy your 6 points instead of 4.
I believe he scores. He's averaging 2 touchdowns per game over the last 1 week. Hate to tell you.
It's factual. I can't fight you on that.
Tell you. If there's one Cowboys receiver to start, it's him.
Yeah, but
That's
just
fine,
don't
but Frank
start a
Gore's
Cowboys
also
receiver.
averaging 101 yards over his last game.
I can put Paul Richardson ahead of Cole Beasley. I have no problem with that. I like Paul Richardson. I just worry that if
And Marquise Goodwin.
yeah, fuck Marquise Goodwin. I'm gonna move.
But
him
again,
down.
like Marquise Goodwin and Albert Wilson.
I'm-
You were doing so good, Pat.
I know. I'm sorry.
But again, like you're seriously going to say you're going to sit there in a league in your flex spot and go, you'd rather start Cole Beasley and get 6 points than the possibility of Albert Wilson or Marquise Goodwin scoring you
Cole
20.
Beasley game log.
I might
Cole
put those
Beasley
guys
game
into
log.
a worse place. They are classic. You don't know when to start them, people, and they'll probably have 4 good
But
games.
you never
here.
start Cole Beasley. That's
No,
You can start Cole Beasley. Beasley's fine.
14-3, 7-9, 2, 31.
Oh, so he's averaging like 15 points a game.
No.
Great.
Okay,
He's
Albert
averaging
Wilson's
11.
wide receiver 24 in PPR.
Oh, Albert Wilson reeks. Screw Albert Wilson. I hate Albert Wilson.
That's fair.
Hate him.
Makes a lot of
Almost
money.
as much as I hate Marquise Goodwin. Hate them.
Came through.
He did come through.
If
Quarterback.
that's what you were
Who,
hoping to project.
who did he come through for? No one. No one started him.
No. I'm saying those emotions came through for you.
DraftKings winner.
Yeah, that's
True. Somebody's a millionaire right now. So
No. 'cause
he would bet you $1,000 because he has that money.
No,
That's
no,
true. And no one who used Marquise Goodwin in their captain slot
A
won.
million and change, Garion. He actually won the 100,000 one too.
Oh, good for him. What a
The
hero.
Albert Wilson guy, the Marquise Goodwin guy, did not. Because you had to start Devontae Adams in your captain spot if you wanted to win the big money.
That's what I did.
That was the smart move. Quarterbacks. I had tight ends up. Quarterbacks. Probably in. I got Baker Mayfield and Tannehill. Josh Allen I have is probably out. Number 1, Mahomes, Goff, Ryan, Dalton, Cousins, Newton, Wentz, Rivers, Luck, Brady. Breeze at 11. Matt Stafford at 12. Baker Mayfield, Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco. Mitch Trubisky, Dak Prescott, Blake Bortles, Alex Smith, Eli Manning. I have Deshaun Watson at 21. It's a horrible spot for him.
Yeah. And he's not healthy, and he might die.
He might die. That's bad.
Jacksonville might have been inspired by the Ravens getting 11 sacks. So that's sort of like the locker room mentality this week is like, can we get 12? Probably
No.
can.
It's like, look. Deshaun Watson might die, but there is no way in hell I'm starting Eli freaking Manning, Alex Smith against the Cowboys. There's just no way. I probably even Blake Bortles and Dak Prescott. I put him at 17. There's no way I'm putting Deshaun Watson that low.
That doesn't really matter because you're either going to pick up Baker, Jameis, Flacco, or Trubisky to play over him.
Yeah.
Those are
Well,
the guys.
Jameis shot up over 70% in 1 week. Not surprising.
All right, then you can pick up Baker, Flacco, or Trubisky to play
Flacco's
over him.
widely available. It's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
So is Mitch. I like Flacco this week.
Sure.
Flacco's
Well, this is also time for me to tell you Andrew Luck's too low.
Andrew Luck's at 9.
Too low. Again, what does he have to do? Oh, only pass 45 times a game. Only throw for 300 yards a game. Only throw multiple touchdowns per game. What Andrew Luck is back despite having no weapons out there.
So how high should he be?
I would start Andrew Luck over Carson Wentz, that's for sure.
I really like that. Like I said, I like that game to shoot out big time. And I don't think
I
any
don't
of it's
see
coming
it.
on.
Well, and that's really what it comes down to. Okay, so that's really what it's your opinion. I don't see it coming down to that. I see the Panthers keeping them in check. So if you disagree, that's obviously we're on different pages. That I would probably slot him in right behind. That's where I would put him. I would put him at 7. So it's not not a ton of spots, but I'm starting in front of Wentz.
To be
and
fair,
I'll put him above Rivers.
To be fair,
in an undead.
of all possible quarterback combinations a team could have, I would wager that exactly 0 people drafted both Andrew Luck and Carson Wentz this season. So probably no one has to make this debate.
That's fair. But
But you might have the Rivers debate.
Sure, the Rivers one is possible.
I'll put him above Rivers. I think that you make a very good case on that. I like that matchup with him too against Tennessee. Just throw it down the field.
I mean, look, Rivers didn't have to throw the ball last week, and still had a decent game.
Yeah, but yeah,
I gotta tell you too. Look, I know your ranking is probably 100% right for Andy Dalton. I always get nervous about bad Andy showing up. Especially
I agree, but
he's been relatively good, Andy, so far.
yeah, he
has been.
He throws to Tyler Boyd for touchdowns every week.
But this is
helpful.
the exact game. This is the game where Andy does it to us. This is the, oh my God, he's facing the Chiefs. This defense can't stop anything, and it's on the road, so it's kind of like, oh my God, Andy Dalton, bad Andy showed up.
But I mean, what do you do with Andy Dalton if you can't rank him highly against the Chiefs? Like,
This is why I never want to own Andy Dalton.
The issue here too is though that
it was
Andy
great.
Dalton.
It was great that this game got flexed into primetime. That it's not on the main slate on DraftKings.
Yes.
That's going to save a lot of people.
I was surprised they flexed so fast this year, by the way.
I think it was just the fear of the 49ers, especially back-to-back primetime games with CJ Beathard.
Go guilty beat her.
So let's keep Eli Manning on prime time.
Yeah, well, that's an entirely
At least people in New York are going to tune in.
I'll say this though about Dalton: the one kind of situation you're in, and I find myself in this situation currently, is he's had such a fantastic run of matchups that you're just at a point where you own Andy Dalton. You streamed him 2 weeks ago against Atlanta, and even if you do have that fear that bad Andy is going to show up, there's no way you're dropping a guy who's playing to the Chiefs. Like I could see not picking up Andy Dalton out of fear of that, but if you already own him, you're starting him.
Mayfield's kind of in the same boat now too. Like he starts off his run of really good matchups. Yeah, I think it's like 4 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
he has
got
Tampa,
Pittsburgh in
He's
there.
actually got a wonderful schedule right now.
Yeah, it's Tampa this week. He has Atlanta coming up, Pittsburgh coming up, and someone else like with a crappy defense coming up. So I think that's the important thing to talk about. If you had to stream people this week, and let's assume Jameis is a part of that mix, it would be Mayfield, Winston, Flacco, Trubisky for me.
I would flip Winston and Mayfield.
Yeah, I was going to say I might have
that's
Winston at the top, but I feel like they're on a tier, and then the next tier is Flacco.
I would rather have a guy going up against Tampa's defense than a guy going up against Cleveland's defense.
Nah, Winston.
Tampa's offense is not. Jameis is not Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, but I just think that we've seen such a propensity for when the Browns get into the red zone that they're willing to just give the ball to Carlos Hyde, where Jameis can pretty much have free reign wherever they are.
Jameis is throwing the ball 40 plus times, whether they're winning or whether they're losing. No matter what it is, he's going to be throwing the ball 40 times.
Tight ends. I have Evan Ingram as in, Jack Doyle as out, Tyler Kroft and Niles Paul are both out as well, as is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. That's why we see O'Shaughnessy at number 19 in the rankings. I got Ertz, Kelsey, Ebron, then Gronk, Njoku, Kittle, Uzuma, Olsen, Ingram, Hooper, then O.J. Howard, Trey Burton, Jordan Reed, Kyle Rudolph, Ricky Seals-Jones, Jeff Swaim, Cameron Brate, Ben Watson, James O'Shaughnessy, and Vernon Davis. I'm not super inspired. Although, the top 14 this week, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Even 15, I don't mind Ricky Seals-Jones so much.
I mean, he's had like 250 air yards the past 2 weeks, and he actually caught something this week.
There we go.
Good for Ricky Seals-Jones.
For 2 weeks ago.
How low would you put Gronk?
I got yelled at for having him at 3 last week.
I think
Does that mean that people are someone's gonna come and shoot me because I have him at 4?
Probably.
Oh no.
I think there might even be an argument that you could put Kittle ahead of him.
I think so, but I'm not.
No, and that's fine, because the weird thing with Gronk, I hate using this because it's a Bill Simmons philosophy, but I think he's right about it. If there's anything he's still right about, it's Patriots football. I just don't think they use Gronk until they have to. And you saw last week when they were in a tie game with 3 minutes left, who did they throw the ball to? Gronk. But until it gets to that point, or until it's like week 14, week 15.
He was kind of non-existent to that point.
They just don't want to force the hits on him and the action over the middle of the field.
They don't, and if, let's say, Mac isn't injured this week, they might need him to block.
Sure.
I mean, it's just I watch after he catches. He looks like he's lumbering. I'm not thrilled with it. I gotta tell you,
ever look that fluid though? Like he's always been a big guy.
Yeah, but
no.
He used to.
He was at least healthy.
Fair.
Yeah. I'm not saying he glided down the field, but I mean the fact is he definitely didn't look like he was running with. He looks like if
he's
you
very
took his
upright.
uniform off, he's got a brace on every single body part.
I guess you could be missing Jimmy Graham, Vance McDonald. No one cares about the Seattle tight ends, and or Jared Cook this week. Who would you go pick up to play for them?
I feel like Seals-Jones is pretty high.
Got
on the
dropped
list.
by a lot of people.
That's true. If Howard's
Howard's
there,
available.
sure.
Get him.
And actually, Howard, despite coming off an injury, saw a lot more targets than Cameron Brate did because Cameron Brate saw 1.
Just a red zone machine.
Yeah, he caught the pass that I don't even think was intended for him.
That's how much he loves the red zone.
Uzuma's probably the one.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess if people are late to react to that, which they probably are,
especially
took an
now, like
actual
they
showing.
were. Yeah. I got somebody last week. Why do you like Uzuma so much? Maybe because there's no other tight end. It's a great matchup.
Yeah, Croft is dead, going for foot surgery. So yeah, Uzuma. I mean, Ingram could be available. I think he's below 60% now.
No, I double checked. He's not, but he saw a big drop off the past 2 weeks for I guess those leagues that don't play with IR.
Rest of the season, would you? I mean, I don't play in a league that plays with IR. IR is for such cowards. CJ Uzuma or Evan Ingram rest of the season? I would go with
Ingram.
Uzuma.
I think I'd still go with the upside talent of Ingram, just at the position.
I'd rather just go with the better offense, and he's the third receiving option in that
That's
offense.
fair, but I'd say Ingram's still the third receiving
Yeah, but let's
option in
also
that
talk
offense.
about the offense. Like, you can't
Sure.
throw the ball
He's probably
past
the
10
fourth.
yards downfield.
I get if you're ranking Shepard way down because he's back, he's the third option.
And Eli keeps everything in within 10 yards.
And that's all Barkley.
That's
No,
true.
that's gonna be a lot of Ingram.
That would be the concentration of targets to their top two receiving options is somewhat worrisome. But the Bengals are in a similar boat.
It's funny because Trey Burton keeps catching these touchdowns.
He's got one play and it works every time.
It does, but like he's bad.
I don't know if he's bad.
Like they
I
just
think
don't like everything that we thought Trey Burton could be. He's coming through on the fantasy points that we kind of thought he would get, but this is not how we thought he'd get them.
I think let's just say Matt Nagy was given like a half decent 5-year vet as a quarterback. Like let's say he has Andy Dalton. I think that Bears offense is incredible. I just think there's certain restraints that Nagy has on his own play calling right now, and the fact that he just doesn't really trust Mitch.
Could
He
you?
threw for 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, but then they had a chance. They had a chance to win a game, and they decided to hand it off to kick a 53-yard field goal.
A chance that instead of Josh Reynolds, it's like Eleanor Higbee or Gerald Everett.
Gerald Everett.
It's Everett. It's 100% Everett.
So I should move up Everett then. Where do I have Everett?
You do have Eleanor Higbee.
It gets me every week. I love it so much.
I have Everett at 31. Where do I have Higbee at?
35.
I have 35.
Look, I'm not saying that you should really think about starting Gerald Everett.
Everett or Kroom?
Everett.
All right, that's how I have it.
Yeah. But again, we're talking about somebody who played.
Honestly,
mean,
look what were you doing at tight end? You're hoping for a touchdown. Honestly, Everett is a better play than Hayden Hurst at this point.
Yeah, that's probably
so
true.
About Hayden Hurst. I'm so happy about that.
I like Hayden Hurst.
Stupid freaking Baltimore tight ends.
Well, everybody, as soon as he takes,
Well, at least no one played him.
Even
I mean, he's
60%.
like he's the Aaron Jones of tight ends, but at least no one plays him to ruin their lineups.
It's true.
Hell, look at it this way. Ben Watson is only a touchdown prayer, and he's going against the Ravens. You might want to risk Everett over him.
Revenge game, please.
Yeah, 17 years ago.
It was last year.
What did he play, like 3 games last year? I forget.
Yeah, I think he played for the Ravens for like
He
the
wasn't
past few
healthy.
years. O'Shaughnessy, I think, is someone you could legitimately stream.
Sure.
Like 4 for
Well, yeah, because they have no
27 and
similar
hopefully a
Uzuma.
touchdown. Defenses. Jacksonville, clearly number 1.
Yeah.
They might have 14 sacks.
I'd say a nice conservative 12.
I mean, I put the Bills inside my top 10 last week just because they were going to sack Watson 6 times. Nice call on that bet, by the way. I catch that big. Quickly, too.
I still can't believe that number was 5.5.
Yeah, 5.5 sacks for the 2 most sacked teams in football. Nuts. So Jacksonville, Rams. I have Arizona Thursday night at number 3.
I like Arizona a lot this week.
They paid off last week for me.
They are consistently underrated defense.
Indy against Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Houston against Jacksonville.
Sure.
Chicago
Indy
against
might
New
be
England.
too low if Peterman's at quarterback.
They're not playing Peterman. They're not doing it.
Yeah. Look,
You really think it's Derek
again,
Anderson?
I think if it's not Josh Allen, it's
Well, then what if we go? Then what if it's your comparison from before? What if it's the not ready for that quarterback situation? All of a sudden, Derek Anderson comes out and throws for 302 touchdowns.
That only works for Brock Osweiler. He's the knuckleball pitcher of quarterbacks.
By the way,
I
Ben Watson did
really
play
like
16
that.
game.
Maybe I have Chicago too high at number 6.
I would just again say if Khalil Mack's not healthy,
Are we
their
gonna
pass
know that,
rush
though?
isn't. I would say if we don't hear anything definitive, I would err on the side of he's not healthy.
I can get behind that, but it's also one of these things that I don't have defenses that I get attached to, and you're going to fall into this boat with the Bears and with the Ravens.
Oh yeah,
this
you
week.
probably don't want to drop the Bears. That's
the thing.
fair.
So you're probably playing.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I
with that.
put the Chargers at number 6. That's for sure.
Yeah, I probably
Against
have the Chargers
Mariota?
higher. At least in Tampa. Like, I know Tampa, you could get bad Jameis on a week, but I think you're more likely to get bad Mariota than you are to get bad Jameis.
Yeah, but bad Mariota,
still doesn't turn the ball over. I
the
know.
Chargers' pass rush hasn't been very good without Bosa.
That's true.
So this could just be them
I
running
don't
the ball
care. The
40
Ravens didn't
times.
need that much last week.
No, but they also got them to his. I mean, listen, I don't think that they're going to generate. He's going to get sacked 12 times again.
No.
So if that's
yeah.
not the case, like it's just going to be a lot of like Mariota throwing it away, Mariota scrambling for 3 yards, Derrick Henry running for -1 yards. Like that's fine for real life defense. I don't think it's all that great for fantasy defense. I think
Yeah, a lot of leagues giving a hell of a lot of points for holding teams to a 0. That's a high
Yeah,
possibility.
that's
it's
tough to
really hard to
project.
project a team to hold them to 0.
Because it does fall from like 10 to 4 in most leagues as soon as someone scores.
I don't think it's that bad.
It's 10 to
Maybe
6.
7 or 6.
It's
something
10
like
to
that, yeah.
6, and then after 6 points, it's 4 points. So if they score
Yeah,
a touchdown, you're down
it's
to 4 points.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm only projecting for sacks, turnovers, and just Tennessee doesn't really do all that stuff.
Fair. I would say like Jake's right in the sense of that if you want to just make sure you get 8 or 9 points out of your fantasy defense this week, I think the Chargers are probably a good.
Charges, and then I mean the rest of the
I
defense.
do like the Lions are at Miami.
It's sort of like a bye week.
That's awesome. I didn't even realize that. Did you see that?
I didn't.
Arr, Miami. Detroit has quite the attacking defense so far this year.
They've
Top
got quite
5
the
in
pass
adjusted,
rush. Yeah.
top 5 in defensive line and sack rate.
You know what? I will say a case for one that you don't even have here. Again, this is digging deep, but the Redskins at home against Dak.
Yeah, but Dak's also like not a turnover machine either. Like
No, but sack wise,
potentially sack wise,
The
but
offensive line's been a lot better the last couple of weeks.
it has been. But Dak gets himself into his own sack sometimes.
Sure, he keeps the ball too long.
like frankly, I think if you're really in desperate need, you don't have one of these defenses that you play every single week. Pick up Arizona; they're widely available. Pick up the Colts; they're
Yes.
widely
I was
available.
gonna say there's still a chance people haven't picked up on the Colts.
Or pick up the Jets at home against Minnesota. Like we saw it last week. You can stream against Kirk Cousins. He might put up points, but he's going to do something stupid too.
I would say it's almost the worst possible thing that could have happened for the Colts in terms of their streamability is playing Buffalo, because people will now be picking up the Colts not because they think the Colts
People
are good.
stashed him last week.
Well,
Used
yeah,
him last week
yeah.
and then held on to him for 2 weeks.
Yeah, if they played them last week, they probably dropped them against the Bills because they were so bad last week. I think they scored like 5 points.
Yeah,
I mean, they did give up like 40-something points, so it's not that bad. Could have been a lot worse.
could have been worse. It's true.
All right, I'll do it. Pat Mayo experience. Jake, I'm sorry for ruining our agreement. I really tried my best.
Hey, it was much better than last week.
That's true. It was basically a Andrew Dice Clay routine for me last week. Like I said, I'm in better
Yeah.
spirits.
I didn't even catch it this week. I guess I'm so used to it.
You've been
Not
around me a
only did he
lot.
do that, he actually stopped himself earlier in the show.
That
which
one
was
I did
impressive.
notice. Yes.
Clean living Pat Mayo.
Well, I mean, you brought up Mark Ingram like 2 minutes into the show. You were really asking for
Yeah,
it.
you did get my blood all riled up to begin. So, Garion, where can people follow you and see all your work?
They can follow me on Twitter at Garion Thorne, and as Pat mentioned, part of the DK Live app. Also out for the playbook. So do the showdown stuff for the Thursday night and Monday night games.
Better app, DK Live or Jalapeno Poppers?
Well, obviously jalapeno poppers.
Yeah, I'm probably going to side on the side of Jalapeno Poppers on that too. Jake,
Not me.
the All In Podcast, plus All In Kid on Twitter and The Athletic. What else you got going on?
Yeah, you just named it. It's tonight. If you're watching today, is going to be 12:01. The rankings are out as always, and just like yours, guess what? They change before
No.
we get to Sunday.
No, you're
So,
fake news.
I know. Matchup rankings tomorrow. All in Sports Podcast, as you mentioned, back on Thursday. Yeah, just do it. I always say, follow me at All In Kid. I tweet everything out.
Who'd you have on today, Matt Herman?
Yes,
Cool. I'm going to listen.
which
when I
was
get
great. Because we had to jump into his conversation mid-sentence because of the stream that actually broke on the recording. So I had to kind of backtrack and be like, hey, guess what? We're in the middle of talking about James Conner. Enjoy that.
Sweet. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all three. Subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience, now on Podbean, along with, I think it was on Podbean the entire time. I just became aware that it was actually on there. Someone's been posting it. Wasn't me, someone. But hey, I'll utilize it. So Podbean, iTunes, wherever you download podcasts, just subscribe. Thanks. Also, if you want to get in the draw for 20 DK bucks, give the episode a like, leave your DK handle, and tell me which of the running backs I have ranked from 26 and beyond that's probably an easier way to say it, that I have misranked this week. Garion thinks it's Frank Gore who should be at number 1. I disagree. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!